Welcome to In Focus. I'm Cheryl Wills. We're on location in Albany during Caucus Weekend. The legislative session now in full swing, and critical decisions that will shape the lives of New Yorkers are being debated right here in the state capitol. The issues on the table once again revolve around affordability, from the ongoing housing crisis to critical investments in New York's aging infrastructure, as well as funding for preschool education. Our guests on this Sunday, Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, her plan to stand up to utility companies and lower energy costs. Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie explains why this caucus weekend is needed now more than ever. We also sit down with one of the chairs of the caucus, Nassau County Assembly member Michael Solanges. She tells us why the stakes are high during this 55th annual conference. That and so much more happening now on this special hour-long edition of In Focus. And we begin today with Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Always a pleasure to be here in Albany on your turf.
It is always good to be with you and with your viewers. Thanks so much for taking the time during this busy weekend.
Busy caucus weekend.
It is.
You are going from speech to speech to speech. But I want to talk to you about some key issues that you're working on in the Senate. New Yorkers, as you know, are facing some of the highest energy costs in the nation. And you recently announced that it's time to stand up to utility companies and lower energy costs. Explain how you'd like to do that.
Well, first of all, we all understand how we're laboring under these utility costs that nobody can understand, why the electric bill is going so high, the gas bill, delivery charges. So we're looking at more transparency. We're looking at prohibiting pass-alongs for salaries of the leadership, for advertising. We're looking for accountability. We want to know exactly how much your rate of return is so that the people aren't being gouged because the shareholders are getting rich. So we are really calling for more transparency on every level about utility bills because people demand it. We understand that energy prices are going up because obviously there's a lot of consumption. We're all plugged in. But there are also, I think, ways that we can ask for more accountability, more transparency, and more understanding that everyday people cannot pay for charges that they do not understand.
Yeah, and Con Ed, as you know, right, just recently raised rates for the next 3 years. What exactly could the state government do?
Well, you know, we have the Public Service Commission, which is pretty much that entity that gets to look at the rate proposals that these companies get, and we're asking them to look at them with a more discerning eye. As I said, we're asking them to really, consider how much they need in order to make sure that our infrastructure is good, the grid is good, and that we can all turn on the lights. But how much is more than enough? And where can the Public Service Commission, with our help, again, by doing legislative things and pushing them, really say to the utility companies, we understand that you've got to provide service, that you've got to be resilient, and even make a little profit. But also, how does this impact consumers? And how do we not just play you propose a rate, then we spend a little time, and then maybe we'll give you a little bit. How do we really take a look to see what is right, what is manageable, what is just? And we're continuing to push. And people, we're being pushed by our constituents. Every day I'm in the streets and somebody will come up to me and say, what about those bills? What about, and I too have Con Edison, but it's all over the state. Yeah. And it's all over the country. So, we continue to push, and hopefully we will get the transparency and the relief that people need.
Yeah, and your constituents, and as well as those in the city, also complaining about the high cost of housing, of childcare, of groceries. What actions could be taken at the state level to help New Yorkers who are having difficulty making ends meet?
Well, I think you're seeing it. And we've been pushing universal child care. We have been pushing universal pre-K. This has been going on for years. And I will say, certainly since I've been in leadership in the Senate, and the Assembly has been partners in this as well, being real serious about looking at those everyday costs. We know how important it is to invest in our children from their birth. And so whether it's looking at making sure the insurance coverage is there with Child Health Plus, making sure we have, again, access to early childhood, qualified care, competent care, investing in education, we were able to, again, restore funding, billions of dollars of funding that had not gone to schools, certainly in low economic areas, and children of color for years had been owed money to their schools, billions of dollars. So we've managed over the past few years to make sure no school is without funding. The housing, we've done everything from housing access vouchers to what is called good cause. Capping the percentage of rent increases landlords can really ask for without having to account for it in a court. In terms of our safety net hospitals, we put billions of dollars to make sure that these hospitals are there in communities so that people know that they'll have access to health care when they need it. So we have spent, free lunches, free breakfasts for kids in school. That, again, is not only nutrition for the children so that they can learn, universal free meals, but it also, again, is an economic burden that parents don't have. So we have tried to look at every aspect of everyday life to say, what we can do, we will do to make sure that at least that we are working on behalf of the people who are, just trying to do what they have to do. When it comes to labor, we do worker protections. Even this past strike, the strike that is on some level still ongoing, but we made sure that unemployment benefits are higher as well. So if you lose your job, instead of getting the $500 and change, you're getting almost $900. So we continue. And by the way, alleviated unemployment insurance payments from small businesses too, so that they were not burdened by having to pay additional unemployment insurance. So we are continuing to do the things that people want us to do. And as I said, we can't do everything for everyone, and we can't be every level of government. And unfortunately, the federal government is really not a partner in so many of these areas, but we continue to work on behalf of the people.
Right. Lastly, speaking of the federal government, undocumented New Yorkers are living in fear in New York and throughout the country, of course. You support the New York for All Act, which would expand protections for immigrants. Give us an update on that.
Well, we are, I've said from the very beginning, New York has the Statue of Liberty in the harbor. We are that place where people come, and we understand that is our fabric, that's our DNA. And so we will always protect our immigrant brothers and sisters because, they do so much to build the fabric. However, the principles of the New York for All Act, is really necessary because we see such egregious violations of people's civil rights and their human rights, and this kind of just wanton disregard for just humanity in so many ways. So we are working. I have senators working, and they represent all over the state. I have the most diverse geographically and demographically group of senators in the history of this chamber. And so, a group of them are working together, and we're trying to come with a package that will, say that we are trying to protect people. We want to protect their rights. There are boundaries that we will not support you crossing, and I think it sends an important message. You know, and I'm also happy to see that the governor is walking in the same direction as is the Speaker in the Assembly. So I'm sure that we will do something substantial to be able to help stave off this federal attack on people's rights.
Well, we're going to hustle over to the Capitol Center now and talk to your colleagues, specifically Assembly Speaker. And we have a busy lineup for our hour-long show, but it was great to start with you.
Really nice. Thank you so much.
Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And still to come on this special edition of In Focus. Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie having some fun kicking off Caucus Weekend. We'll be right back. We're pleased to welcome now Assembly Speaker Carl Heastie. Mr. Speaker, thanks for making the time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
This is my first time at this Caucus Weekend. This is a major undertaking. What are you looking forward to?
Well, the premise behind the whole weekend was for people across the state, people of color, to come gather here, like after the governor introduces the executive budget, to talk about the people's budget and what could be done to help communities of color and for this weekend based on the name of the association.
Sure, and there is a war on diversity. And do you feel that this is challenging, that war on diversity, with Latinos and African Americans and Asians all coming together?
Yeah, I mean, listen, we've been doing this every year. We always try to promote things that will help communities of color thrive, and I think it's probably needed even more now, what's going on in Washington and this administration that only seems to care about the super wealthy and people who think like he does, and I'm referencing President Trump.
Yeah, and
sad where we are today.
It is sad. It is sad, and you're going to be giving so many speeches. You are obviously the Assembly Speaker. You made history as Speaker here. What's your message to these thousands of people who are looking to you for leadership?
There's a lot of lessons that we can learn. First, elections, have consequences. And I think that, if we ever took for granted the importance of voting, having what's happening nationally, for the Vice President of the United States to be booed at the Olympics, everybody gets cheered at the Olympics. So that should just be a message. But what I'd like to tell people is, here in New York, we're always gonna try to do the right thing. Even as the Bible says, we got to take care of the least of us. And I think we'll continue to do that. We're all in this together, and we'll figure a way out of this. We are the Empire State.
We are the Empire State, and you represent the Bronx. There's a good chunk of people here from the Bronx. I've already seen so many of them. How do you rally your district and your constituents who are here?
Well, it's not even, this weekend, it's like we're one big family. So it's great to have my, constituents and people from my district, but it's really across the board, communities all across the state coming together and saying, how can we improve the lives of people of color? So it's just like one big family reunion.
It is a big family. Yes. I was watching you. There were so many people stopping you and shaking your hand. Last question for you, Mr. Speaker. On Sunday there'll be a scholarship gala where students of color will receive money to continue their education. I assume that's very inspiring for you to see.
Without my education, I wouldn't be here, and I always say that that's the one thing no one can ever take away from you, is when you get an education. And so yes, trying to help young people continue through their college. One of the big things for me is, and I'm happy to see even in the governor's budget this year, was no tuition increases. I want to make sure that college is affordable. Some people are paying mortgage sides, student debt. Nationally, I wish that was something that we should take care of. I don't know if providing education should be a profit-making business for banks. We want to guarantee student loans, but it should be a different classification, I believe, to try to help young people get through college.
There's going to be a lot of bargaining with the budget. We want to thank you for taking the time this busy weekend. Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie.
Thank you.
Still to come, when we return, we sit down with one of the chairs of this busy caucus weekend. Assembly member Michael Solanges is with us right after this. Welcome back to In Focus. Joining us now is Nassau County Assembly member Michael Solanges. Nice to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And you are wearing many hats. You're very busy this weekend, and you are chair, but there are two different organizations here. Tell us about that.
So I'm chair of the Black, Hispanic, Puerto Rican, Asian Caucus. So that's the legislative body of legislators who govern here in the Capitol and ensure that marginalized communities are uplifted. And we work closely with the association, which is the entity that is running this weekend, you know, because as legislators, there's no way we could do it all by ourselves. Exactly. And we coordinate this weekend for the intention of getting our community here in the Capitol so they could see what's going on, but also be a part of the transformational change that we have.
Interesting. And it's 55 years?
55 years since the first 3 legislators of color walked into the Speaker's office and demanded that their communities be represented.
And isn't it interesting, 55 years later, there's a war on diversity?
Exactly. And it's important that we take that and the 100 years since Black history was implemented and not only look at our successes, but realize that we are still being marginalized here today, and that the fight continues to ensure that we have access to education, to quality health care, to economic development. So the fight continues, and this weekend is a celebration, but also a charge for us to change our communities for the better.
Yeah, and the theme of this year's conference is Legacy Forward, Transforming Tomorrow Together. Why that theme? Because you were instrumental in creating that theme.
The theme is to ensure that we are looking and thanking our ancestors, because we wouldn't be here, you know, ancestors old and new, we wouldn't be here without them, but realizing that we have a lot of work ahead of us. We see that the federal government every day is attacking us because not only are we a blue state, we are a state that has many people of color who are in leadership positions. And we have to ensure that we're moving forward and transforming our communities for the better. And we're doing that with policy, and we're doing that with politics. And it's important that we are just on the same page in those conversations.
Yeah, and New Yorkers are really in a bind because federal funding is being pulled when it comes to MWBEs, when it comes to anything that mentions diversity. And so there's more reliance on the state now to fill that gap. How are all of you lawmakers addressing that?
It's an impossible gap to fill. There's no way that we could fill that gap, but we can ensure that we're at least stabilizing our communities. They're attacking our diversity for the silliest reasons. For example, the Gateway Tunnel Project. It just mentioned a little bit of diversity and opportunity for MWBEs to get a little piece of the federal pie, and they are stopping complete economic development and transit between states. And so it's important that we are intentional in how we operate and realize that they can't stop us here in New York. You know, this country was founded on state sovereignty, and that the federal government can bully us all they want, but we will fight back. And whether it's through the courts or through policy, we're gonna keep fighting back. We're not afraid of the Cheeto in the White House.
And the fight is real because the war on immigrants and migrants and undocumented New Yorkers, people are living in fear. And what's your message as the chair of this diverse caucus to protect those who fear their safety?
I think first of all, amongst people of color, we need to be unified.
Do you feel we are unified?
You know, at times we have our opinions, and that's what's great about this country. We get to express our opinions. But right now, there's a war that's happening that they purposely want us to live in fear. And we have to say first, stop. And then next, we have to be smart about how we are legislating. I passed the Protect Our Courts Act, which is a law that basically stops ICE from coming into courthouses without judicial warrants. And just the other day, the top judge has said that it protected New York in 11 cases. ICE came in without a judicial warrant, and we were able to stop them from arresting someone without a judicial warrant. And so I do believe that we have an opportunity to legislate. So whether it's New York for All or some type of iteration of that, we have to legislate to protect our immigrant brothers and sisters, and we have to do everything possible to make sure that they understand that New York is a place where immigrants can thrive, and we welcome them here. I don't understand that, like, as a country, we're turning back on the foundation of our country.
We're a nation of immigrants.
The Pilgrims came here escaping religious persecution, and now we're turning our back on immigrants' communities. It's not what it represents. And you see now, it's funny, we sometimes legislate by polls, and all the polls are saying that people, Republican, Democrat, Independent, blank, they don't agree with ICE intervention in our communities. And it's apparent that New York is going to be a safe haven for immigrant brothers and sisters, and we're ready to fight for them.
I want to quickly pivot on another issue that you're very passionate about, diaper banks.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes.
Yeah.
And I know that's very important to you. First of all, how do these diaper banks work?
I know. Well, diapers, people don't realize it's the most expensive part of having a baby.
Son, even though he's an adult, I remember well how much we paid for diapers. So talk about the legislation related to this.
So we are fighting for allocation of funding for the diaper banks. There are several diaper banks across the state, and they provide diapers to parents in need. And it's a network. People can either donate or they purchase diapers, and we want to expand the capacity because people don't realize, people are deciding whether to pay for groceries, medicine, and diapers, or childcare. And so taking off a burden from families is what we need to do at these times. So people can go to the diaper banks, they get diapers for whether it's a week or a month, and they could use them. And for me, it's a great concept because keeping a dirty diaper on the baby not only leads to adverse health outcomes, but it's also a relief from the parents. Like, you want your baby to be given the best in the world. And so whether you're a low-income mother or someone of means, you should be provided with at least a clean diaper.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's so simple that we could do that in the state, you know?
Absolutely. So you're seeking to expand
Yes,
it
so
across
we're
the state.
expanding funding, and we also are trying to expand the amount of diaper banks that exist in the state of New York. Okay. So it's a twofold dance that we're trying to do, but at the end of the day, we're providing diapers for families in need, and it's really a task that we need to look at. The affordability crisis is impacting everyone, local governments, families, and so we need to make sure that we are just alleviating a little bit of pressure off of them, and we're doing that.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time. It's a busy caucus weekend. Congratulations again on being the chair, and we appreciate your time. Nassau County Assembly Member Michael Solanges.
Thank you.
When this special edition of In Focus comes back, we sit down with Brooklyn Assembly Member Brian Cunningham. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us for this special hour-long edition of In Focus, on location in Albany during Caucus Weekend. We're talking with key political power brokers. Let's head back to the Capitol Center now to continue the conversation. And we're pleased to have Brooklyn State Assembly Member Brian Cunningham with us right now. Assembly Member, thanks for being here.
Good to see you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. And you're the first vice chair of this caucus. There are thousands of people here. Tell me about what's going on.
Well, it's the 55th annual, which is incredible. Incredible feat for the association weekend. But also, I think, obviously, people are looking for community at a time where so many New Yorkers and Americans are scared, particularly black and brown New Yorkers. I think coming together in community to talk about the policies that happen in the state capitol and how we actually spread those things throughout the state is a really important time. So I'm excited to be here, and I think people are just really happy to be in Albany, even though it's cold up here.
It's cold up here. It's cold downstate, too. You said people are really scared.
Yeah.
What are they scared of? The federal funding. So many here are losing federal funding because of the backlash against diversity, equity, and inclusion, right?
Yeah, well, let's get a couple of things. One, the state has done an enormous job over the last 4 years under this governor and the state legislature of really backfilling a lot of holes, but it's gotten a lot worse. You know, we had a lot of record funding during COVID. We had an administration on the federal level who was determined to strip every single dollar from the state of New York, and also scaring a lot of our immigrant New Yorkers who are afraid to even leave their homes. So while we're here in Albany and there's so many folks out here, so many folks are afraid to go to supermarkets, schools, are afraid to drive their cars and potentially be murdered by ICE agents. So I think the state is really focused on creating smart policies and making sure we have resources to stop those gaps.
Right, and speaking of policies, you've endorsed Governor Hochul for re-election,
absolutely.
And she partners in this caucus, right?
Yeah, absolutely. She'll be here. I spoke to her earlier today, and she mentioned that she's probably going to be speaking 9 times over the course of the weekend. But more importantly, obviously, the governor gave a phenomenal state of the state a few weeks ago, outlining her budget priorities, a lot aligning with some of the things we're working on. And she also just accepted a nomination at the convention. I was happy to be there to support her and Speaker Adrian Adams.
Yeah, and tell me, what are some of her priorities that you are looking forward to seeing implemented in your district in Brooklyn?
Absolutely. Well, one, I want to say, if I haven't said it before, thank you, Governor Hochul. Over $1.3 billion for downstate medical facility in my district, which is not just a healthcare center, but it's a place where people are employed, the 3rd largest employer in the entire borough of Brooklyn. But this year we're taking it further. We're focused really on making sure we have high impact tutoring, which is, the governor says 9 million, I say 10 million. The semantics will get worked out during the budget, but what that does is helps young people read at grade level, which is 3rd grade, and do math at 8th grade. We know through COVID, there's a lot of learning loss, and we want to really double down on that, as well as she talked about the effects of the federal government and ICE agents, and we've actually authored legislation that would help keep ICE out of our hospitals. So I started with hospitals to kind of say people who are sick, people who work at hospitals should not fear going for care or fear going to work, that they may be deported.
You're seeing that happen in real time in Brooklyn.
I mean, we're seeing it in dollar cabs, right? My father was a cab driver in Brooklyn, a gypsy cab driver, of course. But certainly we're seeing that in dollar cabs, we're seeing it in bodegas. We're also just feeling the energy when you think about our Flatbush Cape Market, which is home of a lot of immigrant workers who created a co-working space. People are afraid to go to the market, so it's not just bad for people who are quote unquote undocumented, it's bad for the businesses that they support.
Right. I want to switch gears and talk about your partnership with your colleague, Mikhail Solanges, and the diaper banks that you are both very excited about. Tell us more.
Look, I'm a new dad. I never thought in a million years how expensive it would be to have children. We talk about, obviously our mayor has talked a lot about childcare, but childcare doesn't just stop at making sure that a kid has care throughout the day. It's the milk, it's the diapers, it's all the things. So we really want to make sure that the state is investing, particularly, obviously I have a lot more privilege than a lot of the constituents back home. We want to make sure that there's resources there in diapers. And those diaper banks not only serve for diapers, but they serve as hubs and resource information for a lot of parents. So it's an incredible program. It's a small fraction of dollars, and we should really be investing there.
Well, let's talk about the dollars. You want to see this in the budget, right?
We want to see a baseline in the budget.
Right.
Every year after year, we kind of go back to the budget dance and try to figure out what's going to be the number. I think we need to increase that number. We know that food security, diapers, all these things are important to a healthy baby, particularly across our state.
Yeah, and there are so many meetings here. Like, there were lots of parties, but there are all too many. Yeah. But there are also important meetings that are happening here. We're in the CAP Center right now. Which meeting are you really looking forward to?
Yeah, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention mine, My Brothers Keepers Alliance. I had an opportunity to work with President Obama's My Brothers Keepers Alliance initiative back when it started in 2014. At the time, I think the president said the words that if he had a son, it looked like Trayvon. I now have a son who's 2 years old, and I'm worried about the state of our young men, our young women, and making sure that they close the opportunity gaps, both collegiately and educationally, but also just socially. And I think having young people in the Capitol this week is going to be really, really exciting.
Right, and there are lots of young people here, right?
Hundreds are coming, hundreds.
Hundreds, and how do you plan to engage with them?
Yeah, I mean, we're hosting a lunch for them tomorrow, so that's one part. We have a youth summit, which is a separate arm in the building in the Egg, where there'll be thousands of young people just lined up to get information, get resources, and connect with legislators. And obviously throughout the hallways, just every time we see a young person, just stop and taking time to connect with them, letting them be seen. I think that's a huge part. A lot of us want to be seen. I know as a young man, I struggled with just trying to be seen by someone. So to have a legislator or somebody of quote unquote importance stop to shake your hand and give you a word of encouragement, I think that's a huge thing.
That really means a lot. And of course, the scholarship gala on Sunday.
amazing. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, please, no.
I mean, I think we don't talk enough about how much money we poured into making sure that young people have an opportunity. Obviously, college is expensive, and I think we want to see as an association, how do we actually make sure that the money that's raised here during this weekend actually trickles back home into all of our districts.
And reinvest into young people.
Absolutely.
Who are the future.
They're the now.
They're the now. That's a good way to put it. Brooklyn State Assembly member Brian Cunningham, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Up next on this special edition of In Focus, meet the chair of Caucus Weekend, Brooklyn Assembly member Latrice Walker. We'll be right back. Hey, thanks for staying with us again. We're at Caucus Weekend in Albany, and we have now Brooklyn Assembly member Latrice Walker. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much for having me, Cheryl. It's always a pleasure to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you. And girl, this is a big weekend for you. You are the caucus chair. So you literally have to be at every event between now and Sunday. What do you want to see come out of this event?
So this is the 55th annual conference of the New York State Association of Black, Puerto Rican, Hispanic, and Asian Legislators. This is a time for people from all across the state of New York, policy leaders, community activists, clergy leaders, elected officials to converge on Albany to talk about one issue, and that's the New York State budget. In 1966, there were a number of caucus members, of course, including the wonderful Shirley Chisholm, who said that we're going to take this midnight walk and demand leadership positions, committee positions, and power in the New York State Legislature. Today, we stand over 70 members strong, and so this is an opportunity for legacy forward. So from that 1966 walk, until 2026, we're talking to all of our young people to let them know that we are not exceptions to Black brilliance, brown brilliance, but examples of who they could be.
Yeah, and you know, with that said, as you talk to young people, you also have to tell them about the war on opportunity for people of color. That must be a difficult conversation. How do you help young people make sense of that?
You know, we tell young people so much no, but we never really give them much to say yes to. And so this is their yes opportunity for economic empowerment, so that they can have economic empowerment, academic empowerment, and to be able to have a seat at the table. So tomorrow's youth conference is the thing that I am the most excited about. As so many young people are converging here, I'm thinking about the legacy that we're putting forth, because as you know, we have a responsibility to deliver a world to them, a state to them that was much better than what we inherited. And so it is our duty, it is our obligation to mentor young people, to provide them scholarship opportunities, and to allow themselves to see themselves in each and every one of us.
Yeah, and the youth conference, I assume, is also an opportunity to give them an idea of how this state government works, right?
Yes, and this is also an opportunity for women too. We have our first all-women ticket for governor and lieutenant governor. So tomorrow, there will be a women's conference and a women's luncheon where the women will sit in all of the seats in the New York State Assembly chamber. And there will be thought leaders from the business community, the clergy community, all to talk about issues which we consider to be pocketbook issues that will matter to make sure that New York State is a safe place to live and raise a family. And so I am just excited about all of the possibilities that Caucus Weekend, the Associations Weekend, brings to the state of New York.
Yeah, and you know, this government has come a long way, literally in the last 30 years. You have Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart-Cousins, who we spoke to earlier. She's the first Black woman leader. And Carl Hastie is the first Black speaker. How does that make you feel to see the change just in our lifetime?
And we have our majority leader from the beautiful city of Buffalo, Majority Leader Crystal Peoples-Stokes. And so one of the things that one of my mentors taught me is that, you know, it may have taken us 400 years to get to this point, but it will take an eternity for us to be able to protect it. And so we are building the bench in this moment. We were talking this evening about, I want to say maybe the phalanxers, which are groups of individuals who were in armies who had the shields and the sword, and they were protecting the army that was coming behind it. And so this is an opportunity to build that bench and make sure that we are encouraging, empowering the next level of gladiators for democracy.
And I assume it's also an opportunity to make sure everyone speaks with one voice, because diversity, as we've been noting this entire hour, is under attack. And this is an event that promotes diversity.
Yes, it promotes diversity. It promotes not just diversity of our people, but of also, thoughts all across the state of New York. The Democratic Party is not monolithic. And so everyone is bringing all of their talent, their skill, and their expertise to the table in this moment. And so this is a dynamic group. This is an amazing weekend where we are pushing our legacy forward and we are transforming tomorrow together.
And lastly, the gala on Sunday is a big deal. Right?
Yes. I am so excited. Yeah. This year we're going to be partnering with the NAACP. And our keynote speaker will be Derek Johnson, who was the CEO and president of the NAACP, because we have a mission, we have a purpose, and we know that the NAACP has been at the helm of this. And so we're going to work in partnership with our leadership on a federal level to be able to say that we are here to do everything that is necessary to empower our people to be the next level of leaders. We're also honoring the legacy of Dr. Hazel Dukes, one of our legacy builders, who quite frankly, many of us would not be here today if it were not for her and her leadership and her foresight. We are introducing our inaugural Hazel Dukes Award. And the first honoree this year is none other than the organization's vice chair, Karen Boykin-Towns, who is an amazing mother, an amazing wife, an amazing soror of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. And we are so immensely proud of her. And we know that she is one of Dr. Dukes' daughters who is continuing in the legacy that she laid out for each and every one of us. And so I'm excited about the scholarship opportunities. We've given out tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of scholarships over the course of the association. And so we are, again, building a bench of our nation's next leaders.
Building a bench. Okay, well, we know you have to rush off to the next event. Brooklyn Assembly member Latrice Walker, thanks for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
We're excited to be here.
Thank you.
Just ahead, we talk with Queens State Senator Jessica Ramos about the immigration crisis. Don't go away. We're here now with our final guest, Queens State Senator Jessica Ramos. Senator, good to see you.
It's great to be back with you. Great to have you in Albany.
I'm in your neck of the woods this time, and you are very concerned about what's happening with immigration and ICE. Tell us your thoughts about the detention center that's being constructed.
I think anyone with a heart has to be concerned about what's been going on, certainly in Minneapolis. And now that this ICE detention facility has been approved in Orange County, many of us are expecting the worst, unfortunately. And I don't mean to fearmonger, but the fact of the matter is that ICE has been making a joke out of our Constitution, not taking the right to due process seriously. We're not able to say that they're actually taking people with criminal backgrounds. They're separating families, they're hurting children, and now this ICE detention facility is said to not even have any running water or sewage.
And this caucus is all about diversity. Latinos, Hispanic, Asian, everyone. How do you want that issue addressed here? There are thousands of people here.
Well, look, I feel like, especially now in this age where there are so many right-wing people fighting, quote-unquote, DEI, people think that representation is somehow just symbolic. I think it's our civil rights. I think that making sure that we have everyone at the table only means that our policy, our conversations are going to be that much better. Questions are going to be asked from all different perspectives, and as much as we can include stakeholders when we're enacting policy and legislation here in New York State, the better our state will be.
Yeah, and do you think the state is doing enough to make migrants and immigrants here feel safe? You are from the World's Borough in Queens, where there is a high population of immigrants.
Oh, and I'm the proud daughter of formerly undocumented immigrants from Colombia. And I've seen how ICE activity in my district has impacted school attendance. Our small businesses have been hurting from people being scared of going outside. So I certainly have hope in my heart that with Governor Hochul, we're going to be able to hopefully get some sort of legislation package done this session. Certainly we have been clamoring for New York for All, for dignity, not detention. I have introduced a bill in order to make it easier for the children of deported parents to be able to seek guardianship, because right now our family court system actually doesn't account for deportations. So there's a lot that we can do at the state level, and I'm hopeful that with all of the advocates who are here this year, because there's a lot of people here in Albany, we can make sure that we're all fully aligned, that the legislature isn't just chasing headlines, but that we're actually working with community and legislating to make their lives better.
You mentioned schools. Many students are terrified their parents are not sending them. What's your message to the governor and to the different stakeholders here about the fear factor?
Well, we have to make sure that we are not cooperating with ICE. We have to make sure that people are being educated on their rights. We have to make sure that we are making New York much more of a sanctuary for immigrant families, making sure they have access to representation. There's a lot that we can do, and you know, it's really heartbreaking to know, on average, anecdotally, when I visit the schools in my district, there's about 50 kids missing on any which day. That is not good for their education. It's bad enough that, you know, many of them feel unsafe. They are self-deporting along with their families. We have to make sure that we're doing everything we can for our children.
I want to pivot to small businesses. You touched on that. Small business owners are really getting hit hard. They're losing funding because of the tight fiscal crisis that we're in. What do you want to see happen here at this caucus to help small business owners?
Well, we want to make sure that we are, first and foremost, improving the MWBE contracting situation with the state. There has always been room for improvement, and even at the New York City level. There are many different ways in which the state agencies can contract from everyone from restaurants to people who own construction companies and supplies in order to build different things around the state. And then, of course, making sure that we're paying them on time. Many of our MWBEs can't compete with the larger companies, so access to capital is always an issue. Making sure that we can access those loans, hopefully at very low or zero interest rates. That's always been a concern. But again, when we do contract with the city and the state, making sure that we're paid on time, so that there is exponential growth for those businesses has been always something that's at the forefront for many of us.
Well, enjoy the caucus. There's a lot going on here. We appreciate you making the time.
Thank you.
Queens State Senator Jessica Ramos. And now, our final focus. We want to salute one of our own honored with a special award this caucus weekend.
Give her a round of applause.
That's our Camille Joseph Goldman, Group Vice President for Government Affairs for our parent company, Charter Communications. Camille given the Chairwoman's Award for her outstanding leadership over the years.
There is no C-suite, boardroom, or event that scares me because I have sat with giants in New York State. I've been at the table in every room, and I am grateful for the leaders of the state for instilling in me the spirit of achievement, opportunity, and entrepreneurship that has served me so well.
On behalf of the Charter Spectrum family, we send our warmest congrats to Camille, and it was an honor to MC the gala last weekend.